Hello everyone, welcome back to Cloud Institution. So we are the best software training institutions and we provide a lot of cloud training courses for various people. So today in this video we're going to see the very important and very major question that can be asked during interview. And this particular question, as part of EBS volumes, will be asked in many interviews. So the question is today, question for today is that difference between the instance store versus EBS volume, in AWS. So what is instance stored? Okay, so with the name suggests the instance stored means the instance will be stored in some kind of volumes, so in the EBS volume, elastic block storage volume. Okay, so what is the difference between instance store and EBS volume? Okay, so instance stored volume is nothing but where you don't use EBS volume, where so you need to specify the instances. Okay, so the instance stored volume is like so instance there is no your entire EC2 instance will be stored inside that particular volume itself. There is no additional external volume will be attached for this one. So for example, if you can go back to our console, so let's create a launch instance. Okay, so whenever you're creating Ubuntu or Amazon Linux image, so you'll be seeing EBS volume. So configure EBS volume will be there, so we can just attach the EBS volume with the various instance types volumes, right? So we can also increase the EBS volume type, to 100 GB. Okay, so whenever you're creating instances, it will be creating, for example, I'm going to create one instance with this one. Okay, so you can see here. So whenever you're creating one instance, and before that, let's go and see the volumes, EBS volumes. Okay, it's loading volumes. So there are some volumes are there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to delete these volumes probably, detach volumes and okay, detach. So okay, I think some of the instances, some of this volume will be attached to the you know because for the instance is already running. So I'll be terminating it. Okay. So for example now, so all are 8 GBs. Okay. So let's go back and see that. Let's create with the 10 GB. Okay. So now whenever you're launching instance with okay, I'm going to proceed without keeper. It's fine. So whenever you're creating a instances by default, so generally, so you'll be creating with a one more additional volume that is of 10 GB. Okay, so I'm going to close this one for a while. So as you can see here, so one more additional volume is created for 10 GB. Okay, this is what EBS volume. So whenever you're creating instances, the one more additional volume will be created along with the EC2 instance. Okay, so this instance EBS volume you will not be able to delete it. Okay, because if you can detach volume, okay, detach, so you cannot delete it because this volume is being attached to the EBS, so attached to the EC2 instances. That is the where the exact, the exact operating system is being residing. Okay, so operating system, all the operating system components, all the root volumes, and everything will be residing on this particular volume. So you cannot delete this one. Okay. Now, now what is the difference between EBS volume and instance store? So now, what is the difference between EBS volume and instance store? So instance store volume is nothing but where you don't attach the EBS volume concept at all. Okay, where there is no, there is no additional volume will be created for this particular thing. Okay, so let's go back and see that, so as you can show here, the instance volume store, right? Because I just filter it, it may take some time to, to show it. So if I go back to the instances again, now if I can click on launch instance, I click on launch instance. Okay, it's taking some time. Sorry, it's taking some time. Okay, so if you want to choose any of the instances, you don't need to go to instances. You can go to AMIs. So you can click on AMIs. You can click on AMIs. Okay, so here you can search the root device is equal to instance store. Okay, I already searched it over here. Okay, so now if you can go back here, if it's already there. Okay, so it is there here, right? So sorry, AMIs. Ah, system became very slow. So now Okay, instance. Okay, root device type. Okay, as you can see here, root device type. So you can click on root device type is equal to is equals okay instance store. So what do you mean by instance store is that so whenever you're launching instances with this particular instance store volumes, you won't be able to see so any volume. So there won't be any additional volume will be needed to create these instances. Okay, so now it's been loading for the instances. So that's what the basic difference, right? So you won't be able to see any kind of, for example, if you can launch from this instance, launch from AMI. So this particular AMI will not will not be required any additional EBS volumes. You can see here, see there is no EBS volume is being attached, right? So this is the difference between instance storage. So then you can ask me that where that instance so instance data will be stored or OS component will be stored. So it has an inbuilt storage. Okay, so instance store volume is nothing but the inbuilt storage of for particular instance itself. Okay, there is no additional volume is required to create it. Okay, so it comes along with the instance itself. Okay, now we hope you understand this particular concepts, right? So now let's see the difference between these two things, right? So now the difference between these two volumes is that so the type is block storage, EBS is the block storage, and the block storage on instance. Okay, that's also block storage, but it is on the instance itself. So it can be you won't be able to see it. The persistence. What do you mean by persistent? So the persistence means you know so it can stay forever. Until you delete the instances, until you terminate instances, this particular storage will be persistent. This is not persistence, which means that so all the data, whatever you're saving, will not be persistent. What do you mean by persistent? Means, for example, you have a laptop. You have a laptop, and then the laptop will be the 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 laptop will be having some of the inbuilt storage. Okay, so that particular storage will be persistent. So it will be there. It will be attached with your instance itself, your laptop itself. But what is non-persistent? It is just like a hard drive, just like a USB disk. Okay, or it's just like a RAM. Okay, so whenever you're creating instances, that particular all the OS will be installed in the RAM. Okay, so whenever you restart the instance, okay, restart the OS, this particular data will be erased. So I want to give you an example about this particular thing, right? So if you go for a live CD, if you know about what is live CD, okay, so live CD is nothing but you won't be needing any hard disks to be attached for the live CD. Okay, all the data will be stored in a RAM itself. Okay, so all the OS also will be installed in the RAM. Okay, so whenever you're restarting the machine, okay, so restarting the machine, then the data, whatever it is been on the RAM, will be destroyed. Okay, so that is the major difference between persistent and so non-persistent. So durability. So what do you mean durability? So it can be for stay long as long as you have so you have this EBS volume. So it is non-durable. Instance type is non-durable. Data is lost when the instance is stopped. Okay, so instance stopped or instance is restarted. So whenever you stop the instances, the data will be lost. So encryption. So you cannot do encryption on this particular device. So you can do encryption on EBS, but you cannot do instant encryption on instance store. So what do you mean by encryption? Means so we use server-side encryptions, right? So in the on the rest, so encryption on the rest. So we used to call this EBS volume. All the data will be encrypted in the volume itself. Okay, so we can do that using the encryption in the EBS volume, but it is not possible in the instance store. So next one is volume type. Volume type is kind of it support SSD and magnetic hard disks. So mostly it supports all the hard disk types, whatever EBS or AWS providing. And here there is no, so it depends upon instance types and generation. So it depends upon the which AMI you're trying to use it. Okay, the cost. So you should be, you'll be paying for the provision capacity means, so so in the previous example we have created 10 GB of volume. Okay, you have to be paid for the 10 GB of volume whatever you have created. Okay, but here there is no additional cost beyond the instances. So there is no additional costs. So only the cost will be incurred for the instance itself. Okay, the usage. So the database root volume and mission critical data. Okay, so if you're creating some databases or SQLs or boot volumes, so if you want to have kind of all your data will be stored, or if you are creating any HTTPD services or web application, Apache application, if you are installing a lot of packages, then those kind of those kind of purposes you have to use EBS volume. But the instance store can be, to store the temporary data. Okay, so I don't want any, I don't want any kind of data after I rebooted. So those kind of those kind of purposes, those kind of scenarios, you can use instance store volumes. Okay, so that's it, guys. Hope you understand what is the difference between EBS volume and instance store volume. Okay, so this is very very important interview question. So hope you understand this particular question. Okay, so if you'd like to see more question like this, so please like, comment, share, subscribe. Okay, so if you're preparing for interview, please go through all the questions, whatever I'm just posting. It's going to be really helpful for you to prepare for your interview. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video, and see you again in the next video.